Okay, our third topic in the Unit 3 is converting imperial length. So it's very, very important that we can convert between measures of imperial length. So that's our goal. I can convert between measures of imperial length. And as I said in the opening of this unit, we're only going to be working with yards, feet, and inches. So those are the only three that you'll need to worry about converting between. So how do the conversions work? Some of you are going to know this, which is great, and some are going to struggle a little bit with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up like a flow chart, and we're going to transfer this into an anchor chart to help you out as a quick reference. But we're going to look at going from smallest to biggest. So for those that aren't aware of this, the inches are actually our smallest unit of measure in our imperial, okay, for this unit. Feet are the next. And finally, yards is our largest. All right, we're not going to get into miles or anything at this point in time. So if I want to go from inches, so I'm going to use arrows here, directional arrows, and it'll tell you the operation. If I want to go from inches to feet, so let's say I know I have so many inches, and I want to go to feet. Inches, there are more inches than there would be feet. How many inches are in a foot? Good. There's no sense putting up your hand, though, because you're watching a video, so pay attention with that, eh? All right, so as the inches move to feet, what we do is we take the number of inches, and we're going to divide by 12, because there are 12 inches in a foot, okay? 12 inches in a foot. So what you do is you take your number of inches and you divide by 12. You're going to be getting smaller numbers, or moving towards smaller numbers. So if you had 1,200 inches, you're going to have less feet, because feet are a larger measurement. Now, how many people know how many feet are in a yard? Again, putting up your hand is kind of pointless. I'm not actually there, right? So how many feet are in a yard? Good. Most of you said 3. So what you do is you take your feet and you divide by 3. So there we go. Now to go the other direction, if we want to move from inches to yards, we want to go the other way, yards to feet. The arrows are going to go in the opposite direction. So I'm going to take yards, and in order to get feet, we take the number of yards and we multiply by 3. To get feet into inches, that means that we are going to have to multiply by 12. It's inverse operation. We're doing the opposite. So there's your conversion chart. So if you are partway through it, so let's say you want to go from feet and you just want to go to yards, that means you just have to do this arrow. All right? If you're in inches and you want to go all the way to yards, well, then you got to do the steps. All right? So it allows you to start partway through, it allows you to be at the very, very end of this. All right, so there we go. Some examples. So I want to convert the following, and I'm going to be using a calculator here, so if you do need a calculator out to follow along, it wouldn't hurt. You can pause it and grab a calculator from the front. But converting the following, and at the end there, no remainders. Yeah, we don't want any remainders, and I'll explain that when the example arises. So for the first one, if we go let's go with 1,600 inches, and we want to go to feet. Okay? From our flow chart, we know that we just want to go from inches to feet, so we're going to have to divide by 12. So I'm going to do 1,600 divided by 12, and I'm going to do this in a bubble, because the bubble is what you're doing with the calculator. Okay? So you're going to do 1,600 divided by 12, and that's in a bubble. So if we do the 1,600 divided by 12, we get 133.33 repeated feet. I don't want remainders, which means I don't want decimals. So 1,600 inches is equal to 133 feet, but we cannot use 0.33 because the imperial system does not allow for decimals. If you're using it in metric, so you're not going to write this down, 1.33 in metric, we know that this is just equal to 33 centimeters if we're in meters or whatever. The imperial system doesn't work that way. So what we need to do is we need to do the following with the calculator. So we need to take 133 feet, and we're going to take it away from the 1,600 inches. So I'm going to figure out, well, 133 is equal to 133, so 133 feet is equal to 133 times 12. So I'm going to figure out how many inches they are in 133 feet. So 133 times 12 is 1,596 inches. So this was my second calculator. So if I started with 1,600 inches and I used up 1,596 to getting it to feet, you'll see that I have 4 inches remaining. So you can't be left with decimals, you have to be left with integer value. So 1,600 inches is the same as 133 feet, 4 inches. All right? So that is what's necessary. So you can see that there's a little bit of a challenge here using that calculator. So I'm going to do a couple more examples for you, and I'll let you try this on your own, and then if you have some issues, we can take them up. So what happens if I want to go yards? Okay, so let's say I have 725 inches, and I want to go to yards. Well, the same calculation, looking back here, in order to go from inches to yards, that means I've got to do the steps. So I got to divide by 12 and then divide by 3. So, that being said, with my calculator, I'm going to do 725 divided by 12, and I'm going to do little steps here, and I'll show you the y in a second. So 725 divided by 12 gives me 60.416 repeated feet. All right, so that's step 1. Okay, now I don't have a full foot here. Okay, I have 60 full feet right here. So I have 60 full feet, so I know that I can divide by 3. And 60 divided by 3 will work, so that'll get me into yards. So I will equal 20 yards. So that was calculation number 2. All right, so we know that 725 inches is equal to 20 yards, but there's no even number of feet. Okay, we used up all the even feet. So here, 725 inches is 60 and a little bit extra inches. Or sorry, 60 feet and some more, and not quite half a foot. So I took all of the feet, my even number 60, and I divided by 3. So 60 divided by 3 gave me the 20 yards. Now I have to go back and figure out how many inches are left over. Well, I know that 60 feet, if I multiply that by 12, that will give me inches. So 60 times 12 gives me 720 inches. So I know that I started with 725 inches. I used 720 of them to get into yards. So that means I have 5 inches left over. So if I'm not allowed to have decimals or remainders here, 725 inches is 20 yards, 5 inches. All right. It is complicated. It was going to be frustrating off the start, but we start getting the hang of it after a while. Okay, so one more calculation that way. So let's do, what happens if we do 2,150 inches, and we're going to go to yards again. All right. I'm going to throw some dividers in here. So, first step, you take your number of inches and you divide them by 12 to figure out, well, how many whole feet can I get? So 2150, divide that by 12, and I get 179.16 repeated. All right. So therefore, I have 179 feet to work with. All right, so that's how many feet I have. I don't want to worry about the decimal. So 179 feet, I want to get that into yards, so I'm going to divide by 3. So 179 divided by 3 is 59. Decimal, and that's, whenever you get a decimal, it's not a good thing. All right, so what do I have? I have 2,150 inches is equal to I know I have 59 yards. So 59 yards. Now how many feet are remaining? So I'm going to take this 59 and I'm going to multiply it by 3 because I have 59 whole yards times 3 will tell me how many feet I used. So I used 177 feet. So I know that I had 179 feet to start with, minus 177. So there's 2 feet that wouldn't go into my yard because there's too much. So I have 59 yards, 2 feet, and I had also some inches left over. So, just working down below here. From above, I know that out of the 179 feet that I created, okay, so that's from up here, I had 179 feet, but not enough for a whole second foot. 179. I'm going to multiply that by 12 to see how many inches I actually had used up. So 179 times 12, whoops, and we end up with 2148. Now I started with 2150. I used up 2148, leaving me with 2 inches. So the exact measurement then will be, group those together, make it a little bit smaller here, give me some room. So 2,150 inches is equal to 59 yards, 2 feet, 2 inches. All right, so this is going to be the toughest one. The toughest version is getting that conversion going that direction. When we go the other way, and if I put an example down below here, so I'll put another barrier up. Going the other direction never causes any problem. And the reason for that, so let's say I have 51 yards, and I want to go to inches. When you go back to the chart on the previous page here, to go from yards to inches, I would have to multiply by 3, multiply by 12. Because you're multiplying by 3 and 12, you are not ever going to have a decimal because 3 and 12 are not decimals. So that means when you go to do this particular question, we don't run into any problems because you're going to take, and I'll work off to the side here, 51 yards times 3 gets it into feet. So you do 51 times 3, and you use your calculator. So it ends up being 153 feet. Again, you times it by 3, you don't end up with any decimals. You take the 153 feet, and you're going to multiply it by 12 to get it into inches. When you do that, there's no decimals. So it's 1836. All right? So you won't have decimal problems going from yards to inches or inches to feet. You will have decimal problems going the other direction, though, and that'll be the harder or the bigger challenge. So 51 yards is equal to 1,836 inches. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I want you to do your best, and I will help you out. We'll create a couple anchors so that you have some references to help you out as you go through the process.